All right. I want to make a video today about buckets. If you watch any YouTube channels about retirement or read articles about retirement, you will hear about buckets, the bucket strategy about where you keep your money once you retire. So, as I been approaching retirement, I'm retired now, but as I was approaching retirement, I didn't quite think these three buckets, like the traditional bucket strategy, was going to fit my needs very well. The traditional bucket strategy just didn't seem to work for me. And I'll explain that here in a second. Anyhow, if you are new to this channel, I'd like it if you would subscribe. Just click the subscribe button. Doesn't cost nothing, obviously. I hear people say that. It doesn't cost nothing. I hope not. It's YouTube. So anyhow, go ahead and subscribe. So let's take a look at the traditional three bucket strategies. Like I said, this is typically what the bucket strategy looks like. So you have your bucket one here, which is basically what I consider your savings, your checking accounts, money that you use to live off on a day to day, week to week, or even month to month basis. So traditionally, you put in up to about 2 years of income in there to live off of. So if the market goes up or down, it doesn't affect this bucket here. You wait out market downturns when the tariff stuff was just happening here recently in February, March, April of 2025. You don't have to worry about that. You have money in bucket one to get you through till the market goes back up. And then at that point, you can start tapping into bucket two, transferring money over to bucket one. And in there, it says you have bonds, conservative ETFs, balanced funds. And then you have bucket three, which is more for growth for long term needs. And it all makes sense. And I have nothing against this strategy except for me. I want to be a little bit more specific because of my certain accounts. So let's look at my 5 bucket strategy. So, like I said, these could be merged into 3 buckets. Some people only have 2 buckets. They have your cash needs and they have investments in bucket two, and that's all they have. Some people have no buckets, or they got buckets, but they're all empty. So, anyhow, bucket. So, this is my bucket one. I keep about 1 year worth of income in bucket one. So, it's cash for my daily living expenses. So, that's why I pay my bills. It's a checking account, savings account, money market account. Basically, I use Fidelity money market. It's earning about 4% for a big chunk of that. It's very liquid. It's not volatile. So, like I said, day to day bills, groceries, utilities, insurance, basically what a paycheck would be used for on a daily basis or weekly basis. So then I have bucket two. My bucket two is a taxable brokerage account, and I use that to replenish bucket one. I should go back to bucket one, say I do have some pension income going into bucket one, which replenishes bucket one on a monthly basis, but it only replenishes about half of what I need. So now let's look at bucket two. So bucket two is income generation. I have about 3 years worth of income in there, and it's a taxable brokerage account, and it's used to replenish bucket one. What I have in there are income ETFs, covered call ETFs. The things I have in there, I want them to be tax efficient. So a lot of those have what's called return of capital on the distributions. So basically, for tax purposes, it's considered like it's returning my investment to me. So since I've already paid tax on that investment, I don't have to pay tax if they're just returning the money to me. So once that is all returned to me and the basis gets down to zero, then I start getting taxed as long-term capital gains on that. And if you know about tax on long-term capital gains, that's different than ordinary income. And this is not tax advice or anything like that. So let's just skip over that. I should say that my ideas of safe, medium risk, low risk is different than other people's. So my goal is medium risk. and I earn 8% to 20%. That's my goal. So a lot of these income ETFs, covered call ETFs, and different things earn at least 8% and some of them up to 20%. And then once a month, approximately, I will move 8% of the yield on cost to bucket one. So, for example, I'm just making up numbers. If I have $100,000, I will move 8% of that per year to bucket one. And I'm earning, like I said, 8% to 20%. So bucket two continues to grow and helps keep up with inflation. All right, so that's my bucket two. Bucket three, my bucket three is a Roth and traditional IRAs. So it's used to replenish bucket two or for major expenses. And I also have tax planning listed here. So 12%. So what I mean by that is once you get about income of 126,000, you are paying 10 to 12% up to that amount. And then over that, you start paying like 22%. By being strategic, pulling money out of my Roth and traditional IRA, I can try to keep that taxable income under that 22% threshold, pay only up to 12%. So I don't want to kick too much tax down the road because at some point you have to take that money out of your IRA. And so by balancing between Roth and traditional, keeping the income at the 12% max will help me save money on my taxes, but yet at the same time avoid big taxes down the road. A lot of planning. Really, it's not that complicated, just needs a lot of planning. So what type of assets do I have? And I have growth ETFs, income ETFs, BDCs, preferred stock funds or ETFs. And I also have this invested in things that earn between 8 and 20% or more than 20%. And what do I use this for? I use this to replenish bucket one and bucket two as needed. I mentioned bucket two or major expenses. So major expenses like a car, a roof, or something that's $20,000 or more. I look at this as maybe I'm getting toward the end of the year. I'm in December. I'm starting to look at my yearly income, see where I'm at for taxes, and then I may transfer the big chunk over to plan for some major expenses. So I might not be paying for these major expenses at that particular moment, but I might move big chunks of money out of here to pay for expenses that are coming up. And since I said bucket one or bucket two, I may just bypass bucket two and put it straight into bucket one if needed. So now we're going to get to bucket four. So bucket four and bucket five could be combined, but I have it separated. So bucket four, long-term growth. I have about 5 years worth of income stashed in there, and it's in Roth and traditional IRAs, and it's there for inflation. It's to support longevity. I have growth ETFs, income ETFs, BDCs, preferred stock. So some of the same funds as bucket three. So mostly growth, 12% or higher. So the 8 to 20% is basically targeting a lot of these income funds, the BDCs, and cover call ETFs. So an example of that, I didn't want to get too many examples, but like SPY-I, QQQI, those are covered call funds that are earning like 12 to 14%. You got JEPQ and other ETFs like that. So that's where I'm getting this 8 to 20% from. But down here, I have fewer or probably no covered call ETFs in this bucket. It's mostly things like QQQ, SPY, and some other funds like that where this money is sitting. And these are funds that would be used for later years. So at some point, maybe I will transfer money from here to bucket three as needed. So at this point, I haven't even touched bucket four. And there's a chance that I might not touch bucket 4 much at all. I don't know. So far, we're getting by on basically bucket 2 and bucket 1, but we haven't had any major expenses yet where we might want to draw some money out of bucket 3. And then that leads me down here to bucket 5. So bucket 5 is approximately where half of our savings is located. And I don't know if we will ever need to touch bucket 5. I don't know if we'll ever need to touch bucket 4, but bucket 5 is sitting there. I can't think of anything that we would need that for. Now, we have health insurance and some different things like that. And even if we had something catastrophic happen, I don't know if we would touch bucket 5. What we could do maybe if we want to buy like a second home or something, maybe that would come out of bucket 5. But even then, our traveling involves moving around a lot. We don't usually go somewhere for more than a few days or a week at a time. Even when we travel overseas, we're constantly moving every couple of days. We don't sit in one spot. We like to keep moving and seeing different things. I get bored easily and to keep going. So, as far as buying a place in Florida or Tucson, Arizona, we've considered that. But like I said, I don't like to go somewhere and just sit. Now, that doesn't mean we have to go down there and sit forever. We could go down there for a few months or something. But anyhow, that's not the point of this video. This point of this video is my 5 buckets and how I'm looking at them. So like I said, bucket 4 and 5 could be combined into your traditional bucket 3, and then bucket 2 and 3 can be combined into your traditional bucket 2. But I like to break it down just a little bit more. And it has to do with the type of accounts I have as far as if they're before tax, after tax, IRAs, Roth versus traditional IRAs, and also take in consideration the tax consequences of these buckets. So that's why I have 5 buckets. So anyhow, just thought I'd explain that a little bit and tell you why 3 buckets don't really work for me and why I have 5 buckets.